Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. We are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, all you porcupines, you. This is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, Eric Brakey. Thank you so much for joining us today for episode 82 of the Porcupine Report. Of course, we come to you every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. on multiple Free State Project platforms, Facebook, X, YouTube, Spotify, many other of your favorite podcasting platforms. Wherever you're consuming this content, I certainly appreciate it if you leave a nice review or a positive comment or share it with your friends. You know, I will say, I was just out of curiosity, I was looking at our Spotify page, and I noticed that some of you guys have left nice, like 5-star reviews of the podcast. So that does help. So thank you to those of you who are doing that. Wherever you're spreading good vibes about the show, it is much appreciated. I do want to remind you, of course, if you are not currently subscribed to the Free State Project newsletter, you are missing out. I don't know why you would not be subscribed, because it's totally free. It costs you nothing, and you get original content every single week right to your email inbox from me, with contributions from other folks on the Free State Project team. And this past week's newsletter was all about how apparently up in northern Grafton County, the Democrats there are talking about trying to recruit like-minded people from Vermont to counteract the Free State Project. Apparently, we're recruiting so many liberty lovers, and the only thing they can think to do is try to recruit more socialists to the state. I don't think it's gonna work out so well, though, because there was already a socialist state project in Vermont. And if you were subscribed to the Free State Project newsletter, you would know all about that already. So go to fsp.org and sign up to get the Free State Project newsletter right to your inbox every single week. Not only are you going to get great news and anecdotes about things that are happening in the Free State, but you're going to hear all about upcoming events and many of the goings-ons that are taking place. So that's not to be missed. And before I go any further, of course, I want to tell you all about, as I typically do, our sponsor, which is Porcupine Coffee Roasting from right here in the Free State of New Hampshire. Today, I'm drinking my coffee chilled. Sometimes, sometimes it's nice to have it cold. But this is Porcupine Coffee Roasting. Refreshing and giving me the energy bump I need to get through those long days, tirelessly working to bring more liberty lovers to New Hampshire. Now, this isn't just coffee. It's a revolution in your mug, proudly operated by Free Staters in the Free State. They roast only specialty grade beans from small producers, always fresh, roasted in small batches to order with a roast date you can trust. And Porcupine Coffee Roasting is all about sovereignty. As a private membership association, they embody the live free or die ethic, giving freedom-minded folks like you a way to choose liberty with every sip. It's crafted for the caffeinated and the freedom-loving, perfect for those living with that Free State spirit every single day. And you don't even need to be in the Free State with that Free State spirit. You could be anywhere in the country because they ship all over. And here's the deal. Use code PORKREPORT at porcupinecoffeeroasting.com and you will get 15% off your order of individual products. Plus, a portion of your purchase will go to help support this very program. So it's appreciated very much. A great way that you can support the show. And it's a win-win-win for everyone. A win for the show, you're helping to support us. A win for Porcupine Coffee Roasting and the Free Staters who are operating that. It's also a win for you because this coffee is great. What are you going to be drinking? Folgers? Get out of here. Porcupine Coffee Roasting. It's great. So live free, drink free with your fellow Free Staters. Get your Porcupine Coffee at porcupinecoffeeroasting.com and use discount code PorkReport for 15% off. All right. Thank you to our sponsor. Now, moving forward, we have plenty. We have plenty of events that are coming up in the Free State. Great opportunities if you're already here to get out and engage with the Free State community, or to come and visit and meet folks. If you're someone who is maybe wondering if there's a, you're looking around at all the craziness going on in the world and you're thinking, I should be living in community with people who share my values, not these people who are going to snitch on me to the state the next time COVID crisis happens if I just want to exercise my basic freedoms. Well, we have a lot of events that are happening all the time, and I want to tell you about a few of them. In a moment, we'll do an overview of the one we just did this weekend, the Granite Freedom Trek, which I was telling you about on past episodes. We'll get back to that. But upcoming in next month, in October, Columbus Day weekend, we've got quite a weekend for you with Fall Fest and the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference. Well, let me kind of lay out this weekend for you a little bit. So let's talk about Fall Fest. It's a 3-day weekend, Columbus Day weekend, and our friends at Independence Realty are putting on a series of family-friendly events across the Free State. Here's if you can come for just one event, you can come for all of the events. But Saturday, you're going to have 2 events to come out that you can come out to. 1:30 p.m. There's going to be apple picking. 5 p.m. axe throwing. That's a fun day of family-friendly activities. And then Sunday, there is the arcade day at the world's largest arcade in the world, right here in New Hampshire. Also Sunday, you'll be able to choose between going to arcade day or going to the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference. I'll tell you about it in a moment. That's going on all day Sunday. Monday, there's a family hike. Now, I had a lot of people ask me about the Granite Freedom Trek. They were saying, is this a great thing to bring my 5-year-old kid to? So, well, it's a pretty strong. It was a moderate difficulty trail. Maybe not the best for a 5-year-old. Your own kids' limitations. But this one is a family-friendly hike on Monday, October 13th. So this is a great one to bring the kids out to. So that's Fall Fest. That's multiple events over the course of the week. A great opportunity to bring the whole family out and connect with folks right here in the Free State. And of course, that same weekend, as I mentioned, on Sunday, the 12th, from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. is the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference. This is put on by our friends Bruce and Carol Ann Fenton. It's going to be at Wentworth by the Sea in Newcastle, New Hampshire. It's a great occasion to come out. I think this is a perfect pairing of events for particularly maybe you're a father and you're also a Bitcoin nerd and your wife and your kids could care less, but they want to go to the arcade. So you get to go to the Bitcoin conference. They get to go to the world's largest arcade. You all have a great weekend in New Hampshire, and you can join them for the apple picking, the axe throwing, and the family hike. A great weekend, and I hope that you will come out and join us for some of those events. I'm looking forward to Fall Fest. You can go to, here's the 2 websites for Fall Fest, fsp.org/fallfest. That will redirect you towards the Independence Realty Group's page with more details on the events there. And for the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference, you can go to nhblockchain.com. nhblockchain.com. Or blockchain, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. blockchainnh.com. Blockchain, so NH after the blockchain, and you will get there. For the Bitcoin conference, I will say they did just, this is a nice fancy event they're putting on, but they just opened it up. So tickets are free, but you do have to RSVP and register and get a ticket. So go to blockchainnh.com, get your ticket, and I will see you there. I'll be speaking. Actually, I just had to commit to a topic for this, and my topic is going to be how states can fight back against fiat currency. There's a lot we can do on the state level to fight the Federal Reserve, because as you know, always my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed. And we're not just going to wait around for Washington, D.C. to come to their senses. We can do a lot at the state level. So that's what I'll be talking about at the Bitcoin conference. And if you are so inspired by those remarks about what we can do through political action to fight things like the Federal Reserve or other topics, well, I want to tell you about a new event that we're just announcing. You're the first to hear about this. We're announcing this right now. In November 8th in Concord, New Hampshire, we are bringing up an old friend of mine who's an instructor with the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership to do a one-day political leadership school. And I want to thank our outreach director, Pedro, who is taking this on, and he's organizing all of this with them. So you're going to want to register for this one-day political leadership school, and we have a URL that'll take you right there to sign up. It's fsp.org/FACL, FACL. FACL stands for the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership. That's who's teaching this. And this isn't, maybe, I don't know if you've done any kind of political activism training before. Some have, some haven't. This is the best training. I have in my hands right here, this might look like an ordinary pen. It's not. This is the pen that signed constitutional carry into law in the state of Maine. Why do I have it? I have it because I got political leadership training from the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership that taught me the real nature of politics and how to use grassroots pressure to move things through your state legislature or your local, city hall or whatever. It's the same principles. This is fantastic lessons if you want to be an effective political activist. And I encourage you to come out on November 8th. So learn how to be politically effective. Learn how you could get a pen to sign freedom laws into law yourself, just like I have. Come out to our political leadership school, fsp.org/FACL. There is a bit of an expense. I think this week there's an early bird discount. So if you act this week to get your ticket, you'll get the most savings. So act quick. Those are the events coming up. Now I want to tell you about the event that just went by. We just had a fantastic first annual Granite Freedom Trek. And we got a lot of photos from this. I thought we might do a little slideshow before we get to our guest, who I'm really excited to tell you about in a moment. We'll do a real quick slideshow on the Granite Freedom Trek. So this was on Sunday. We had a strong group from across New England come out. This was a 5-mile loop up and down Mount Cardigan and Mount Firescrew. And here we are right at the base of the mountain, but we figured we'd take a photo before we all got exhausted. We had, all folks, older folks, younger folks. I think our youngest party member was 7 years old, and she was a trooper. She was running circles around some of us. It was a great group of about 30 in total. And moving forward, as we climbed the mountain, the forests were pretty thick at the base of, but our guide was Derek Prue. He's a native Free Stater. He led us up the trails and made sure we didn't wander off. The forest thinned a bit as we made our way higher to the summit, and but we found plenty of opportunities. It could be exhausting to keep climbing higher, so we found opportunities to stop, catch our breath a few times. Drink some water, have a snack. Here's a photo of me taking a moment while waiting for others to catch up. There we go. There's the photo. As everyone's, and there were people of different skill sets. But we were all always ready to wait and keep the group together. As we neared the summit, the beautiful mountains and the valleys of New Hampshire, you could see them in all directions. It was really kind of a great reminder of what a beautiful state we have the privilege to live in and to build freedom in. And when we reached a large clearing right before the summit, it was a perfect time to take in the views, refuel. I want to give a special thank you to, I know she hates this photo, so she hates this photo, but I think it's a great photo. Olga Sorens in this photo was, I want to give her credit for really helping to organize the event. And of course, to Derek Prue being our guide as we up and down the mountains. And while we were at that clearing, I realized we actually didn't do introductions at the base of the mountain. So I figured it was a good spot for us all to stop, powwow, and formally introduce ourselves. And we all went around, and I asked everyone, what's a mountain that you are climbing right now in life? We were all climbing a physical mountain. What's the metaphorical mountains? And it was great to hear people doing different liberty projects and different ways to even just, better themselves in their life. It was great to get to hear that from everyone. And I found out that our FSP founder, Jason Sorens, apparently knows a lot about the local flora, and he was pointing everything out like this. I couldn't even tell you what this grass was, but he knew all about it up and down the mountain. As we reached the summit, we did get a big group photo with the mountains behind us. Does your state have mountains like these? And if it does, I bet it doesn't have the freedom to go with it. But beautiful, beautiful mountains and a great group of folks. There was no rush to head down. We took times to connect and converse. In this photo, you have FSP founder Jason Sorens and our outreach director Pedro Serra talking at the summit about what? I don't know. You'll have to ask them. But as we made our way down the mountain again, all the conversations continued. You wouldn't believe how many libertarian conspiracies you can plan while climbing mountains together. I kept thinking that our old friends like Jeannie Deach at Granite State Matters, the one who created the whole FSP enemies list. I imagine she'll have to add the Granite Freedom Trek to her list of places where all the conspiracies are happening. But we wanted to make sure that we also got to explore the area. Particularly, we had some, folks coming from out of state. So we stopped by a local lake to refresh, catch some more sights. And some people decided to actually take getting refreshed by the lake a little bit more, less figuratively, as they soaked their feet in the cool waters. Up on the next picture. Yeah, there we go. And one particular member of our party, state representative Yuri, he decided to go all in and went for a swim. But after the lake, we went back to the Last Chair Brewery to celebrate completing the trek. We all had a drink for our younger party members. That was just a nice ice cold lemonade. And really appreciated getting to spend all this time with everyone. And it turns out that one member of our party, Serge, was celebrating his birthday. So before he left to go spend the rest of the day with his family, we had to embarrass him by singing the song. So you know the song. Anyway, I want to say thank you to all who joined us for the Granite Freedom Trek. Everyone kept asking if we would be doing this again next year. And to that, I definitely say yes, that is the plan. So if you missed out, we hope you will join us for the second annual Granite Freedom Trek in September 2026. So thank you to all who joined us and made that a fantastic event. And I did hear from people, particularly new people who'd never come out to anything before. I said, how did you hear about it? And what I heard was the newsletter and the podcast. So some of you are listening to the podcast right now, and you know who you are. Thank you for taking the next step and joining us for an event in the Free State. And if you didn't come out, please know you are always welcome. We're doing all kinds of events, and I want you to come and visit. So let's do it. All right. I guess those are the things. This was a particularly long introduction. I really appreciate the patience of our guest for today, because I'm going to go ahead and introduce him right now. This is his second time on the Porcupine Report, but it's been a little while since then. He is probably in the broader libertarian movement, the most recognized expert on Javier Milei and the libertarian politics that are playing out in the country of Argentina. And we're just so fortunate in the Free State that he's right here. He's a Free Stater with us right here in New Hampshire. He is one of the founders of the Shell Liberty Clubhouse, which I am actually on the board for. And it's a great place, great Liberty Clubhouse right here in the Seacoast region of New Hampshire. Plenty of events happening there all the time, by the way. A lot of comedy, actually. I know Robbie the Fire Bernstein seems to be out every single year to events at the Shell. And our guest today is one of the organizers for events. There was just at a Liberty karaoke night at the Shell, which I was trying a new song. It wasn't my best. Anyway, whatever. And I won't tell you about usually I'm better at karaoke, I'll just say. Anyway, our guest today is Skot Sheller, and let's welcome him back to the show.
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
It's going well, Scott. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all your work in the Free State, and please stop embarrassing me by posting the video of my karaoke everywhere. That was not my best. That was not my best.
I like the song, though. It was a good attempt. Way better than I could have done it. So
well, it's not as good
it was
as
it was a good night though. Everybody seemed to have fun. We had rave reviews. People should come out. It's a beautiful space, especially for karaoke. I always recruit the best, including Eric, to sing. It's almost like a concert. It's really, really a hit. The Shell comedy music does really well. The noise just sticks in there. It sounds great.
It's a great little spot, and I like it because it's got like this feel like like a black box theater a little bit. And I know last year I really enjoyed doing our reading of. I don't think you were there for it, but we did a reading of with my Free State Theater group. We did a reading of William Shakespeare's Star Wars: Verily a New Hope, and I'm hoping to, before the year's done, to get in a reading of the sequel, The Empire Striketh Back. But we'll see if there's interest. I've been kind of busy with all these FSP things, but anyway, got to make some time for some fun. Anyway, Scott, anything else you want to say before we hop into like the topic we're going to be talking about today, which is Javier Milei in Argentina?
Not much. Just keep your eyes peeled. We're going to have another karaoke. I know we're going to have a comedian in November at the Shell. So it's a great spot, and everybody should come out and experience it.
Yeah, and those comedy shows are a great reason to come and visit New Hampshire. I mean, I think Robbie the Fire. I know I've seen Robbie the Fire Bernstein there twice now over the last 2 years. He comes out usually like around the end of the year. Historically, it's been around December, if you listen to Part of the Problem with Dave Smith, Robbie the Fire Bernstein, he's the co-host there. And it's a great reason if you're in one of the surrounding states like Massachusetts or Vermont or Maine to come out to a great comedy show and meet the Free State community and get some laughs. So I'll be sure to announce that when the dates are solidified for any of these upcoming comedy shows. So Scott, let's talk about it. Admittedly, I'm not totally up on the current events that are going on in Argentina, but I know that the broader liberty community, both here in New Hampshire and around the country, is watching to some degree. What's going on with this Javier Milei experiment in Argentina, and there's been a lot of hope and optimism from the beginning, and a lot of good things seem to be happening. But I will say, again, not following it very closely, lately I've been hearing more sour news coming out of Argentina, and I don't know what's true, what's not true. You're the one who is like obsessively on top of everything that's going on all the time. I think this is why you've been on the Tom Woods show on a few occasions, being interviewed on this, as well as other places. And I know that Javier Milei himself has retweeted you something like 40 times. So you're as much a expert in the libertarian community on this as anyone. So just tell Scott, what's going on in Argentina right now?
Well, there's a few things. The biggest thing going on right now is the midterm elections. So Argentina, unlike the United States, has odd election years because they return from democracy in an odd election year. So this year, 2 years after Milei was elected, they have their midterm elections. And because Milei came in with such a weak coalition, he came in with 10% of the Senate, his party. Right now, it's 6 out of 72 senators are La Libertad Avanza, his party. Only about 40 of 275 in the House of Representatives, they call it the deputies, are his party. And he was so weak that Milei was winning so much for many, many months, as far as the inflation had dropped a lot from 200% to latest was 33% and going down. The last 3 months have been even lower than that, 20% a year annually, but from 200% to 20% in 2 years is one of the fastest disinflations of all time. And wages were going up. Economic growth is going higher. His opponents were afraid that Milei was going to basically complete his revolution. And they got enough political support to pass some laws, some bills that increased the government spending. So they passed bills to increase disabilities, bills to increase spending on education, etc. There's several others, and Milei vetoed all these bills. Milei vetoed them, but unfortunately, his opponents, prior to this election, I mean, this is the sad thing. Milei got elected with the most votes ever in Argentina, about 56% of the votes, which is the highest percentage, the most votes ever. He had a mandate, and he's been doing the mandate. He said, we're going to get rid of inflation. He's been getting rid of inflation. So we're going to bring back economic growth. He's been doing that. In every metric, pretty much, Argentina has improved. And so he is doing exactly what he was elected to do. However, like I said, he came in with such weakness and in the legislature, and most of the legislature are the political insiders, the political establishment. Milei calls them the caste, that have ruled the country for 80 years. Mm-hmm. And these people are Peronist, are kind of national socialist, and they don't want to give up power. And their goal, what they want to do, is they want to hurt Milei's economic program, and so that he starts to recede, that everything starts to go bad, and then they can blame it on Milei. And that's why they passed these bills. And Milei wasn't able to defend his vetoes. So for the first time in Argentina history, the vetoes were not upheld. They had enough votes to actually override Milei's vetoes in a couple areas. So
do you know what some of these bills were that were passed through over his vetoes? Right.
One was like spending on disability spending. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about spending, like public spending and everything else. They sound good. We're gonna increase disabilities, pensions, et cetera, et cetera. However, they didn't have the money to do it. And there's obviously tons of fraud in Argentina. So in this way, this started to shake up the markets. And the second thing there was another thing that shook up the markets. And Milei's got really three things he works on. One is the economic, which is he and his economic team are trying to lower inflation, bring back prosperity, bring back economic growth, et cetera, which has been pretty successful, especially given his limited power. The second thing is political, and he put his sister in charge of that, Karina Milei, and that's to get elected, to continue the political success, increase his numbers in the legislature and Senate. And then the third thing was win this cultural battle, because Milei doesn't want it just to be him. He wants this to be a sustained revolution. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about that is the young people, 16 to 25, vote overwhelmingly, over 70% for Milei. So the young people really like Milei. They get his ideas. They actually like capitalism. They think making money and all these things is good. They see the Instagram and all this stuff about business and stuff. They get it. The problem is like the older people, the millennials, some of the millennials, the older people that are stuck in their ways, that have lived in this Peronism for many years. they're the ones that are harder to convince. And so Milei has to change the cultural battle to change people's minds so that this is a sustained revolution. Now, the political part, I'm going to political and the social, the cultural battle, that is still needs to be won. There's a tremendous amount of people that just want to live off of others in Argentina. And these people live in very, very bad conditions, dirt roads and no sewage. You can think of like some of the poorest provinces, places that don't have running water, like Formosa and Santiago del Estero. They vote overwhelmingly for the Peronist. In these towns, there's these slums that surround Buenos Aires. They vote overwhelmingly for the socialist. They live in horrible conditions. Their mayors are all Kirchnerists, Peronists, yet they keep voting. And basically, you can give them $200 a month, and you win their vote. So in the province, there was some provincial elections in the political part. So Milei's had to build this political party. Recall that La Libertad Avanza, his party, was established in 2021. So it's only 4 years old. It's not an old party. And to scale it up to be the biggest political party in the whole nation is not an easy task, right? Milei wasn't even expected to win, really, in 2023. He just did. So, and he came in with obviously a very weak, fractured government. He was just very popular himself. So, this whole scaling out as political party is a learning curve. There's been some mistakes, picking the correct candidates, doing the right sort of campaigns that work. And in the provincial elections of Buenos Aires, now the city of Buenos Aires itself is its own autonomous region. It's sort of like Washington, D.C. It used to be its own country. But the province, which is about 17 million people, about a third of the population, is the Peronist stronghold. And they had elections in September, and Milei's party did way worse than people thought. It's sort of like Trump losing badly in California, right? You'd hope that you do well in California, but you're not probably going to win. But I think Milei thought that they could do better, closer, or even tie the Peronists, but they didn't. They lost by 13 points, and this really shocked the markets because the success of Argentina really is contingent on, is Milei going to be successful?
Right.
Are the socialists going to come back in power? Are you going to invest in a country that the socialists just come back in power? So this brought a lot of fears to the markets. First, the passing of the legislation that will hurt Milei's fiscal program, because Milei has been running budget surpluses. Milei cut. The federal government was about 20% of GDP, and Milei cut it to 15%. So he cut 5% of GDP government. But I'm trying to think. Where was I? Where was I, Eric?
Yeah. You were telling. So you were saying that the markets. So you're saying the markets got shaken up because of Peronist being surprised.
Right. So Milei balanced the budget by cutting government.
Yeah.
And Milei balanced the budget by cutting the government, and so the Peronist, and this has been, by the way, as you know, we libertarians know, every dollar that the government spends comes out of a dollar of taxes, one way or another. And in Argentina, it was with inflation. They just printed tons of money. So Milei lowering that 5% of GDP, they were able to cut money printing. I'm sorry, Saifedean. They were actually willing to cut money printing like entirely. And that reduced inflation and brought millions of people out of poverty in Argentina. Multiple private sources show that. And the Peronists, by increasing the spending, are threatening Milei's budget surplus or balanced budget. And this is the key to Milei's program, to cut spending, to increase the inflation. Yeah. So this stirred up markets. He lost in the provincial elections, and there was a lot of economic volatility following that. And the economic volatility has been very strong in the last couple of weeks, because the elections happened September 7th. So while actually inflation has still been going down, there has been a run on the dollar in a way, whereas people are afraid of the peso, because why would you keep a peso if they can't have a balanced budget and they start printing it again, right? Mm-hmm. Why would if the Peronists can somehow take down Milei or neuter Milei, would you be confident in the peso, in their local currency? Now they've had the peso for 80 years, and it's been abused for 80 years. 80 years they've had high inflation. 80 years they've had multiple hyperinflations. 80 years it's lost its value relative to, for example, the dollar. In the year 2000, the peso is 1-to-1 with the dollar. 1 peso is $1. Now, when Milei took office, is $1 was 1,200 pesos. So in 23 years, it just lost all of its value compared to the dollar and pretty much any other currency. Why would you keep that? And so people started to exit the peso, and it created a lot of instability, volatility in the economy. Milei has continued to deregulate. There still is economic growth. There's still some positive things. Inflation has still been coming down, but there's a lot of fear about this. And right now, because Milei hasn't been able to close the central bank, to take the government's hands off of the money, because of the fact that he's so politically weak, etc. They have been more like monetarist, if you like Milton Friedman monetarist, and they're trying to largely keep the peso from relatively stable, and they've been free floating, but if, for example, if there's a loss in demand for the peso, for currency, monetarists would say reduce the supply, and to balance it out, right? So Milei, after a certain, they've been free floating the peso for the first time almost ever, but after the people started to run on the peso, they wanted to make it more stable. So that would include selling dollars and buying pesos. Because when you sell dollars from the central bank, you buy pesos, you actually take that liability out, because fiat currency is a liability. It's really government debt. Mm-hmm. It's a note. It's a non-interest bearing note. It's government debt. So you're taking that away from the people. You're reducing the money supply. The flip side is that reduces the liquidity in the economy. So you have less money for loans and stuff. And Argentina already has a very scarce amount of credit compared to the United States. I believe even in Brazil, it's like the credit's about 10% of the GDP. Argentina is like 1 or 2%.
Yeah,
So,
Scott, let me ask you. Just kind of want to kind of big picture kind of lessons from this. So what I'm hearing from you a lot is a lot of the difficulty is Javier Milei came in on this really awesome like anarcho-capitalist Rothbardian message, and that propelled him into the executive branch. But for the legislature that he has to work with, he his new party gets 10% of the seats, and that's great, but that's certainly not enough of a working coalition to advance that agenda. So he's had to work with more of the center right party to cobble together majorities to do things. But that center right party is still, I mean, it's kind of like dealing with, maybe even to a worse degree, like if we got a Javier Milei elected to the White House in America, and then he got there and had to work with Mitch McConnell and like a lot of these kind of these lackluster Republicans in order to end the Fed. Like Mitch McConnell isn't voting to end the Fed anytime soon. So it sounds like that's been the source of the conflict there, am I right? And it makes me wonder a little bit about how here in New Hampshire, I know on the state side, like there's often kind of this rivalry between kind of like New Hampshire and Florida is like, who's the real free state? Obviously, we're ranked number 1. Florida's ranked number 2. But what has always seemed to me the fundamental weakness of a state like Florida is that their policies of promoting liberty have really kind of come from one person in the executive branch of DeSantis, and the moment he's gone, is the legislature still going to have the will to keep going in that direction, or what is it going to revert to? Whereas in New Hampshire, we don't have like a central figure like that. Our governor, Kelly Ayotte's not really a free state or libertarian, but we have so many in the legislature that we're able to push those libertarian ideas, no matter who the governor is. We can find areas to work together. Is that so? So it sounds to me like looking at Argentina, right? The fundamental, it's kind of like a flip side of what we're building in New Hampshire, right? It's powered by, and he's such a dynamic figure, Javier Milei. He could do more than most just on his own, the charisma and the bully pulpit that he has and using political pressure on people, but he can only do so much so long as he doesn't have the support of the legislature, and that's where the bumps in the road are. Is that an accurate assessment, and is that a fair way to compare like the Argentinian situation to what we're building here in New Hampshire?
absolutely, that's 100% true. Of course, Milei is trying to create that more of like the libertarian legislature, and they'll definitely gain seats in this midterm. The thing is for him to get even more things passed, so that he's successful, he's going to need a pretty good majority. And since they passed some of this spending before the midterm elections, it's really just hard to get rid of it now if he's not doing that. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's more like Florida and Ron DeSantis than us. Our liberty in New Hampshire is generated by the legislature and our activists, whereas in Florida, it's the opposite, 100%. So in Argentina, there's no doubt it was more Milei against all of the wolves in the legislature, and that's for sure. Now, there's a little bit of a today, which is the 23rd. Milei actually came to the United States and got an endorsement from Donald Trump, and the U.S. Secretary basically said they will allow Argentina to have a lot of financial instruments and ability to get credit, loans, etc., to help fight off this sort of run on the peso. So, as like I said, this has actually helped Milei a lot, because people were very afraid, and there was runs on. There was a lot of volatility in the market, and Trump coming out and supporting Milei, and not only that, saying that we will help you financially, like with this trouble you're having, has calmed the markets in Argentina. So the markets have calmed almost overnight as a result of this. And so this appears to have solved, because like I said, the problem is not what Milei is doing. The problem is the political uncertainty. The problem is the belief that the socialists will come back, the Kirchnerists will come back. And if there is people that now with the financial backing of the United States, allowing Argentina to acquire more foreign currency, which is a big thing, and really calms the markets in Argentina. And then we've seen the last 2 days, for example, asset prices were just plunging in Argentina, like stocks, Argentina bonds, the risk premium, basically how willing are people to invest in your country, was rising, and that has all plunged, not to the lowest level ever, but has plunged or improved in the last 2 days, because Donald Trump has came out and endorsed Milei and said that we will help you. He really hasn't done anything wrong economically. It really is. It just he's going against a very strong Peronist enemies. And the media there always got paid. The media in Argentina always was paid by the Kirchnerist. And so they were basically welfare. And that's what they would like to get back to. They want to go back to the welfare. And they have been attacking Milei, coming up with corruption charges, et cetera, et cetera. And they come up with these very ambiguous corruption charges. And if you watch it for a while, they're like, oh, well, there's nothing really going on. But like,
I imagine it's a lot like, plenty of criticisms I have for Donald Trump, and there's plenty of fair things to criticize him for. Usually it's the same stuff you could criticize others for, which is why they don't go after him for those things. But certainly, like during his first term, I think we all remember like Russiagate, where it was just kind of like there was nothing there, but it's just like you can kind of, the more that they blow smoke, the more smoke is blowing around. People think, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Right? There must be, they wouldn't be telling us this over and over again in the media if there wasn't something there. And years later, you find out, wow, there really was nothing there. I imagine the political establishment in Argentina would try similar strategies.
Yeah, and it's not to say that nobody's a utopian. Not to say that there aren't some people around Milei that might do something that is corrupt, but Milei has been reducing the corruption tremendously in Argentina by cutting all the government employees out that were doing the corruption, by abolishing all of the departments that were very corrupt. So that's a good way to end
government corruption. Just end the government.
Yes, I mean that's basically part of what he's doing. Yeah. To say that to claim that Milei is corrupt when the previous government was stealing billions of dollars. And Milei is, dramatically reducing it just by getting rid of those institutions that had all the power to commit corruption is rich. So, I think that especially for the province election, which is not national, but province, but it's a signal. It hurt Milei. And I will say that the political thing that I was talking about, his sister was in charge. That's something that Milei can't really put his hands totally on. He's worrying about all the economy and the all that sort of thing, and so you have to delegate that out, and then that person has to delegate it out, right? So their political candidates, some of the people they chose weren't the best, and what's interesting about Milei is he fired some of the older people, some of the old time, and he's brought him back to his youth. If you recall that the youth really helped propel Milei to where he is. The youth have a lot of this very innovative energy right on social media. And he put like a young 20-year-old ahead of his whole campaign. Somebody that I would love to bring to New Hampshire. I think he'd be great. Santiago.
Yeah, let's get him to
I think he put like a young person ahead of his whole electoral campaign, and it felt like overnight it got better. It really did. And so we're hoping that the big elections are in October, and if Milei can do well in those elections, if Milei can beat the Peronist, if Milei can get a good result, all of this pretty much goes away. The markets will immediately rebound. They'll immediately rebound, and Milei needs to get labor reform and some of these other reforms done. He actually should be able to get some of his program through. He needs labor reform. He needs some other reforms to really allow Argentina to prosper, especially in manufacturing and whatnot. So it really is contingent on these elections in October, which is the reason that Trump has endorsed Milei, why Milei is in New York City right now and getting an award from Trump, shaking his hand, because in South America, Milei is friendly to the United States, which is somewhat rare. We got, of course, Lula in Brazil, who's not friends to the United States. Bolivia and Chile are not, but Argentina is a very strategic partner to have. So Trump wants Milei to succeed. He doesn't want the leftists to take control.
Yeah. So as we're approaching the end of the hour, tie it all up for us, Scott. Like these elections are coming up in October. So that's next month. When in October? Is this early October, late October?
No, it's the 26th.
The 26th. So in just about 1 month, these midterm elections will decide whether Milei has a coalition to continue pursuing a libertarian agenda in Argentina, or if the Peronist socialists are coming back into political power and able to derail the second half of his first term. So those are the stakes, and I guess we'll all be watching with bated breath from New Hampshire or parts less free across the states. Any kind of final words you want to share with folks, Scott?
Yeah, I think Milei is just a great example of somebody that was a nobody that became very powerful. Obviously, the president of a country, which is as high as a libertarian has ever gone, and he's as libertarian as you think. He's a Rothbardian, and Milei has done it by being creative, by being outspoken, by being fun, by using the youth, by using social media, by doing some of the stuff like Eric said, doing events that show our strength, and beautiful symbolism, beautiful slogans. And this is just something that libertarians just need to learn. We just need to learn to make it fun. We need to learn to use social media. We're pretty good at memes and stuff like that. Which is probably why we're more popular than we used to be. So, I think just he's a great example of what you can accomplish politically through movement, and what he's done is amazing. Lowering poverty is amazing. Lowering the inflation is amazing. So he's been very successful. It's just whether that cultural battle he can win the cultural battle. Whether he can win that political battle in a country that's had 80 years of like high inflation, of Peronism. So this is a very entrenched ideology. And so it's going to be very interesting. I'm much more optimistic, especially after what happened with Trump's endorsement today. And as the markets seem to be calmed down because they're less afraid of like a bank run, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm much more positive about it, and we'll just have to see. And this is a beautiful experiment. It shows that our ideas work. So we do want Milei to succeed. We do want to show that poverty can be reduced by capitalism in such a radical way. So I think supporting Milei is very important.
I certainly would love to see it succeed. Certainly, New Hampshire can't be the only state in the world that is demonstrating that liberty works. So, well, Scott, I really appreciate it, and perhaps we'll have you back on at some point after the midterm elections. I'm sure a lot of people in our audience are very curious about what's going on in Argentina. I think there are certainly. I know on the show we try to focus on a lot of New Hampshire-based stuff, but I think there are things we can learn from Argentina that are directly applicable to the Free State Project experiment that we're doing here in New Hampshire. So, Scott, I really appreciate. Especially all this is going on in a foreign language that I don't understand. So I really appreciate you being able to come and join us and share your perspective on what's happening over there. And if you do succeed at getting anyone over there interested in coming to join us for the New Hampshire Liberty Forum or PorcFest next year, we would love to give them a platform and hear about this experiment in Argentina.
I will do, and I do have some of Milei's contacts and stuff now. So yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, we are starting to book speakers now. I guess with the PorcFest thing, we got to finalize things going on with the venue, which I will hopefully have updates for people in October. We'll have an announcement. So I know people keep asking me what's going on with PorcFest. PorcFest will happen. I promise you this. All right, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. And I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Eric.
All right, everyone, that's the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. As a reminder, events coming up. Columbus Day weekend, the 11th through the 13th of October, we have Fall Fest and the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference. Fall Fest, fsp.org/fallfest. You'll see the events listed out there. And in particular, please, one of the events, the axe throwing on Saturday, that's one you got to get a ticket for. So that's you can click the link there on fsp.org/fallfest, get your ticket for the axe throwing on Saturday. The other events you can just come on out for, or send an email to RSVP. It's appreciated too. Then the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference, blockchainnh.com. Tickets are free because the Bruce and Carol Ann Fenton are being very generous with putting on this event, and they just want you to come out. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to be speaking about how we can use the states to fight back against fiat currency. Come out for that. And again, first announcement, you're hearing it first on this episode, November 8th, our political leadership school that we are hosting, taught by the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership. Learn the skills to be politically effective and advance liberty in your local town government, in your state government. Learn the real nature of politics and how to put the screws to the politicians to do the right thing, even if they're just doing it because they want to win re-election. That's how you really are winning, when you can shape the political environment around the wrong people to make it politically expedient for them to do the right thing. Sounds like Javier Milei needs a bit of that in Argentina to get the wrong people to do the right thing. I guess that's what I got. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter at fsp.org. And while you're there, become a Porcupine patron. We have over 200 Porcupine patrons doing a donation of $10 a month or $100 a year, supporting the year-round mission of the Free State Project as we promote, outreach, invite, welcome, and engage with people every step of the way of their journey to join the Free State community here in New Hampshire. So we rely on our patrons to make all this work possible. Become a patron, learn more at fsp.org. Thank you to our producer, Renita, for making this show look so great. And furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.